What was it like to be like, you're witnessing one of the best fights of the year, maybe the best flyweight title fight ever, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. By now, everyone probably knows they fought to a draw. It was an insane fight. They were just in a phone booth the entire time, just slugging it out, haymakers. I mean, we've never seen this kind of action out of flyweights in a title fight before, with all due respect to the past. What was it like being there? Because you guys kept saying over and over again, it sounds like there's 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 people here.
It was so weird. It was, I mean, listen, very rarely am I buzzing the day after the fight. I couldn't come off the high. I could not come down on Sunday. I was like so excited. Like I kept talking to people about what we witnessed because it felt so like different, especially at 125. And it sounded like there were hundreds of people in there, bro. It was so loud. You can hear them through the cans. You can hear the coaches yelling. You can hear the people in the background, the oohs and the ahs. It was insane to watch these two men go to war as they did. It was great, man. It was so fun. Deiveson Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, both guys walk out of there with their head held high. Nobody lost. And I know this sounds like a theme that's growing as we go forward. We're always like, nobody really lost in that fight. But the reality is no one lost on Saturday night.
How do you feel about the draw ultimately? I mean, look, it's a nice little way to end it, right? Because it was so close, but you feel like it was the right call? Because that's two separate things, right?
Yeah, well, so here's the thing, right? Deiveson Figueiredo won the fight, right? Like if you take everything considered, out, the 1 point deduction
Right.
obviously made it a draw, but he won the fight,
Now,
right?
are
So
you saying that based on what the scorecard said or based
based
on
on
what
what
you
the
think?
scorecard say,
What do you
I
think?
honestly I thought Brandon Moreno won the fight.
I mean, you're telling me
I
you,
did.
I for a minute there, I forgot that Figueredo was even in the fight. You were talking about
So
Moreno
all
so
right,
much.
so
I
here's
mean,
the thing though,
golly.
Ronnie. Like here's the thing though. If and you're a guy that's watched sports your whole life, right?
Yes, yes.
When you have a team or an athlete that is a massive underdog and they're in a fight with a champion like that, or they become the story, right?
Right.
And I'm watching the fight and I'm watching the fight and I'm calling the fight as I see it. And now I feel like I got heavy. I'm speaking for me personally on the Brandon Moreno in round 3 because I thought he won round 3, which ultimately was a deciding factor. I got heavy on round 4, which he won clearly.
Yep.
Round 2 was a very close round, right?
Agreed.
And obviously, when I'm speaking to Moreno in that point, see, I thought he won 2, 3, and 4. That's why I thought he won the fight. If I'm speaking to Moreno in 2, 3, and 4, all of those rounds were extremely close. And as they went into round 5, obviously it was 2-2. But in round 5, I spoke to how Brandon Moreno took his foot off the gas and Deiveson Figueiredo, if this fight was on the table, he went and took it from him. So no knock on the champ. I just the guy that's the challenger and the underdog in a lot of situations become the story. Just the way it is. I mean, we've seen it time and time again.
Now, I agree with a lot of what you just said. Here's the crazy part. One judge scored the fifth round for
That's
Moreno.
crazy.
If
That
that
that's
doesn't happen, Figueiredo wins this fight regardless of the point
outright,
deduction.
right?
Right.
Outright, which
Isn't
is
that
crazy.
amazing? That to me,
Look,
so the two easiest rounds to score were round 1 for Figueiredo and
Deiveson,
round 5 for
Deiveson,
Figueiredo. Now, yes, but I'll say this, round 4 almost just as easy for Moreno, right?
Brandon
So
Moreno,
it
yeah.
really comes down to 2 and 3. There are a lot of people who think Moreno won that fight fair and square. I scored it first round for Figueiredo, third round for Figueiredo, fifth round for Figueiredo, but with the point deduction in the
It
third,
left
it
at a
becomes
draw.
9-9. So I actually agreed from a scoring standpoint with the 47-47.
You see, so when you went second and fourth for Moreno, right?
Yeah.
This is where we found ourselves in that bit of a spot because you're in the third round, you get the low blow. This is such a swing round.
Yeah.
It can go 9-9, but Deiveson cannot win this round anymore. All he can do is tie, which makes it a very interesting spot. Moreno landed a big overhand right at the end of the third round, and it was a very competitive round. He landed a combination as the round ended, and I was like, oh my goodness. Deiveson started so well early in this round, but at the end of this round, the tail end, once Moreno got up from the low kick, he won that portion of that round.
Mm.
The tail end of the round, it would have went from being 9-9 to 10-8. So now I'm like, man, this dude might be up 29-27 going into 4, which then he won 4. That's how I saw it. So I was like, man, he got 2 rounds in the third, very close second. He could win 3 rounds, without winning another one. So I kind of had him winning the fight.
And that's ultimately why I'm happy with the draw. There's no talk of robbery. It
Mm-mm.
sounds, based on what Dana White said afterwards, they're going to run it right back, which is the right thing to do. I personally hope they got paid, show and win. I hope
Yeah.
they both got what they deserved, because that was an incredible fight. And it was just so much fun to watch two guys literally like in the pocket, right? Like when
They laid
Figueredo,
every
what is
time.
it like watching Figueiredo punch like that? Because
Oh,
it
bro.
feels from television like I'm watching a guy like a Mack truck just hit someone. Like I've never seen that out of a flyweight. It's like boom, boom. The
It's
guy has so much
insane
power.
watching the punch being that small because the effect that his punches have on these flyweights, we've never seen it before. Like he clubs them, man. He early in the fight, he was almost like dismissive of Brandon Moreno. His hands were so low.
Yeah.
He's like punching him. But then by the end, he started to pay more attention, right? Because he got hurt in the fourth round. I think it was the fourth way he got hurt with that combination on the edge. I was like, oh my goodness, he hurt him. There was about a 15-second span where we didn't even say a word. We were just like, oh no, oh. And it's like, that's where, as a commentator, you have to be a commentator and also a fan. Because if you become a fan, then I'm just watching the fight with my friends, right? But I continue, we got to talk about the fight. But like in those spots, it's hard. That was such a great fight and easily the greatest flyweight fight I've seen of all time. Because look, I love DJ. DJ and Henry Cejudo had a very technical fight. It did not match up to that.
No.
DJ beating everybody up in the fights prior never amounted to that because he just dominated them all. So how can we even question whether or not that was the greatest flyweight fight of all time? Because one, you had a dominant champ in DJ, hats off to him. And then him and Cejudo was a good fight, but it wasn't nowhere near the explosion that Saturday night was. It was phenomenal, man.
And when you talk about Figueiredo's power, you also have to give Moreno credit for taking those shots and hardly falling at times. I mean, his chin is just out of this world.
Brand,
Can I ask you though about the point deduction? Because as you know, it's never clear cut. Like if we're watching football and you face mask someone, it's 15 yards. Like there's no warnings, there's none of that. In this sport, you could kick someone below the belt 3 times. Like it's not very clear. I think Jason Herzog is one of the best refs in the game, and I applaud him for making that call. That was the right call. Do you agree or disagree?
So after the fight in November, I asked a question that I should have known the answer to. I got to admit, you put me in contact with someone that really told me the rules of judging, how things are done in the fight game.
Let me give him credit. Ben Cartilage, tremendous
Cartilage,
judge.
right? Ben Cartilage gave me all this stuff on how they're judging fights, how they're scoring fights, how they're doing all that. As a student, I should know that. What I learned that time and was reaffirmed on Saturday, it's not the amount of time something happens. It's the effect that it takes on the fight. And a blow like that was so low and so hard, immediately should get a point taken away. If there's an action that causes it causes the ebbs and flows of the fight to change, as that could have done, that is a 1-point deduction. It doesn't matter how many times. It doesn't matter that was the first time Deiveson did it. It was such a big shot that point was warranted, and Jason Herzog made the right call.
And how about Moreno coughing on the ground? I mean, it was hard to watch, but then to your point, comes back and might have stolen the round in some people's eyes. Did amazing, and then wins the 4th.
And that's why I thought he won the fight. That's where I thought he won the fight because, and maybe maybe it's skewed because I saw him on the ground coughing for 3 minutes. He didn't even take the whole 5. He came back like he was shot out of a cannon after he got kicked low. But again, we were almost anticipating Deiveson Figueiredo's cardio to start to come back to Brandon Moreno, and it never failed him. He was able to push through that, and he fought. The 5th round was his best round outside of round number 1. So hats off to the champ. Like, I really hate calling the fights at times because, like you said, it might feel like I'm ignoring one guy. But the reality is, when you got a Duke versus a freaking University of Louisiana or Arkansas Little Rock, and it's a 5-point game going down the stretch, you think they're talking much about Duke? They're talking about the opponent a lot of times, and because it's not supposed to be happening. And what Brandon Moreno was doing showed that he belongs, and he is right up there with the champion Deiveson Figueiredo.
Well, look, it's very easy for people on Twitter and whatnot to criticize you guys.
I'm only talking about you because you're the one that said it just now. You're the Twitter guy.
But you know what I was tapping into. I was tapping into that. I thought you guys called.
And it was you. I'm talking to you. I don't care about Twitter. You just said that you forgot that maybe Deiveson was fighting.
Yes, because I'm doing the old little this because I know it will strike a nerve with you. But let me ask you this. Hey, they got to run it back, right? Like there's no doubt about this. We're not talking about, with all due respect to Cody, Henry, name a
Bro,
guy, they have to run this back right away,
I
correct?
want to put something Saturday, Ariel, at the end of the show, and I've never felt so strongly about something. When you have a champion like Deiveson Figueiredo, a young guy, you kind of need that. We've talked about this wrestling, right? You
Yeah.
go pin Ric Flair, you become the man. You pin
Yep.
Hulk Hogan, the guy has to put you over in order to become the man. Cody Garbrandt was that name that Deiveson needed to be alongside in order to be truly seen as the star of this division if he won, or maybe he wasn't so good. He doesn't need that anymore. He's
Mhm.
the A side at flyweight, regardless of who's there. And I really believe that. This young man now has separated himself in the terms of marketability, in terms of fighting spirit and style, and just being the number one flyweight in the world. So it's like they don't have to rush to the Garbrandt fight anymore because they don't need that name. They can put those two back together and people will still watch because they know what happened the other day.
Worth repeating, both Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno made history on Saturday. Quickest turnaround for a champ, quickest turnaround for a title challenger. Also, first time in 19 years that a champion headlines two shows back to back. When you consider where the flyweight division was at the beginning of this year, and then you consider that he missed weight in February, and you consider where we are now, and I'm not going to get into the fighter of the year / fight of the year stuff because we may have seen both in that fight. We'll save that for a later day. But when you also consider the fact that this guy is now turning into the star that you just said he was, and when you consider the fact that he was in the hospital till 2 a.m. with
That's
food
crazy,
poisoning,
man.
I mean, it's
We didn't know
amazing.
that.
Amazing. I wonder what the rematch will look like if the fact that it was on, this fight was on 3 weeks notice, he cuts weight twice.
Honestly, anytime there's a rematch like that, it really heavily favors the champion. That's
Why?
no knock on Brandon Moreno because this was a great fight, but it was also the circumstances were fantastic for him to find that level of success. Now his toughness won't go anywhere. His toughness won't. He'll still be there. He'll be game, right? He has that Mexican Warriors mentality. I spoke to that on Saturday night about the guys that he was trying to join as Mexican-born champions. But Figueiredo will have a full training camp. He won't be 3 weeks off. He won't be 2 weight cuts back to back. He won't be in the hospital all night long because of those things. So it will favor him not only because of the physical effects that this situation may have taken, but also the idea that he gets to go out and train for him full time and get prepared. But it still won't be easy.
Dare I say, Deiveson Figueiredo lit Brandon Moreno up like a piñata, but unlike the piñatas that Brandon Moreno's family
Got to hit back, bro.
hey,
I'm telling you,
they didn't break. He didn't break.
I'm on Moreno today. I know you guys are like, oh, DC, you love Brandon Moreno, but bro, I'm telling you, if you squinted hard enough, he reminded you of all the great Mexican boxers not giving up on themselves, constantly digging to the body. He was like, bro,
beautiful.
when he was throwing that boom, boom, left body shot, left hook, I was like, oh my goodness, this dude can box. But look, they used to guerra, the god of war. This dude's the real deal.
Figgy, can't you see? And by the way,
I almost said it.
You almost said it. You stopped short. Listen, a couple times you were teasing me, but it's almost like it's a little subtle nod, right? It's not quite Marvin Vittori calling me out who opened the floodgates, but it's subtle. Maybe in 2021 we'll just get a full blown, shout out. Maybe a man can dream.